Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that literally affects millions of Americans, but is so often buried in complex legislative jargon. We're unpacking a sweeping reform proposal currently sitting in the House of Representatives, the Social Security 2100 Act, also known as H.R. 9519. My goal today is to give you a clear, structured look at exactly what's in this text, breaking down the actual mechanics of the proposal so you can understand the facts directly from the source material.
So what is actually inside this act? Well, it's an incredibly ambitious omnibus-style proposal. Rather than just focusing on benefit cuts, the text of this bill aims to address systemic funding issues, fundamentally restructure base benefits for recipients, and remove several major bureaucratic hurdles that beneficiaries currently face. We're going to map out exactly how it proposes to do all of that.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the Social Security 2100 Act as a whole. Second, boosting base benefits. Third, relief for specific groups. Fourth, paying for the changes. And finally, fixing SSA operations. Starting with Section 1, the Social Security 2100 Act, a comprehensive legislative proposal. Moving on to Section 2, boosting base benefits, which means broad adjustments for everyone. The bill outlines two massive, across-the-board changes. First up, notice that 93% replacement rate. Bumping up this initial calculation percentage means the biggest relative financial boost actually goes straight to lower-income earners. Second, we're looking at broader tax relief. Now, the system would still allow up to 85% of your Social Security benefits to be taxed, but this bill proposes raising the income thresholds before those taxes actually kick in. Huge difference for a lot of folks. And this brilliantly illustrates another major proposed shift, exactly how cost of living adjustments or COLAs are calculated. Currently, COLAs are based on the CPI-W, which is an index tracking what working-age people spend money on. But let's be real, elderly individuals have a completely different set of expenses, right? They tend to spend way more on healthcare, housing, and medications. So this bill proposes switching to whichever metric is higher, the current CPI-W or the CPI-E, which is an index tailor-made to reflect the actual costs elderly consumers face. According to the text, this adjustment would be temporary, applying specifically from 2027 through 2036. Now, what about folks who worked their whole lives in low-wage jobs? Well, the bill proposes an entirely new alternative minimum benefit. Let's walk through this together. If you've got more than 10 years of work history but earned very low wages, this creates a brand new baseline. At 11 years of work, your new minimum threshold is set at 6.25% of the federal poverty level, and it scales up linearly from there depending on your years of work. Hit 26 years, and you're at 100% of the poverty level. Hit 30 or more years, and it maxes out at 125%. To put that into a real-world perspective, 125% of the current federal poverty level is roughly $20,000 a year for a single person. It basically ties a long-term worker's minimum benefit directly to the poverty line. Building on that, how does this impact long-term beneficiaries? The proposal includes a temporary 15-year longevity boost, again, slated for the years 2027 to 2036. Basically, if you've been receiving benefits for 15 years, the bill phases in an extra financial boost. In Step 1, which kicks in during your 16th year of receiving benefits, you'd get 20% of that boost. Then, in Step 2, this scales up a bit every single year until year 20, when you'd get 100% of the full increase. It's essentially a structural reward designed for longevity in the system. All right, pivoting to Section 3, relief for specific groups, focusing on targeted beneficiary adjustments. The reach of this bill is seriously wide. It targets surviving spouses, ensuring they don't face a sudden, devastating income cliff by guaranteeing them either their deceased spouse's primary amount or 75% of their combined benefits, whichever is greater. It also zeroes in on caregivers, SSDI claimants, and students. For instance, qualifying students whose parent is retired, disabled, or deceased could actually keep their benefits up to age 26, provided they're enrolled at least half-time in college or trade school between 2027 and 2036. Oh, and it expands access for kinship caregivers, too. Meaning, if a court grants custody, extended family up to the 5th degree, like aunts, uncles, or cousins, could legally access children's benefits. Let's look a little closer at those caregiver credits. Currently, taking time off work to care for a dependent leaves a gaping hole in your earnings record, and that shrinks your future benefits. The 2100 Act says, hey, if you provide at least 960 hours of unpaid care per year, which breaks down to roughly 20 hours a week, for a child under 12 or a chronically dependent relative, you can structurally fill those gaps. The system would literally credit you as if you had earned 50% of the national average wage for that year. You can do this for up to 5 qualifying years. It's a way of acknowledging the sheer value of unpaid labor, ensuring folks who step away to care for family aren't severely penalized in retirement. Keep in mind, the text does note this requires formal application and documentation. It wouldn't just happen automatically. The landscape for Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, would also completely change. Right now, even after winning the grueling fight to get approved, applicants face this agonizing 5-month wait before seeing a single dime. The 2100 Act, it eliminates that waiting period entirely. Benefits would start the very first month of entitlement. Plus, if an SSDI recipient tries to re-enter the workforce, they currently face a terrifying benefit cliff where their income just abruptly stops. This proposal completely softens that blow. With a gradual offset, between 2027 and 2036, benefits would simply be reduced by $1 for every $2 earned above a specific limit. A real game changer. Now, we absolutely need to define a critical mechanism in the bill called the hold harmless provision. You see, often when Social Security benefits go up because of a COLA, beneficiaries accidentally get pushed just over the income limit for other vital programs. Suddenly, they lose their SSI, Medicaid, or CHIP coverage. This provision legally ensures that any Social Security benefit increases from this bill will not count as income for SSI, Medicaid, and CHIP. It literally protects beneficiaries from losing their supplementary medical coverage just because their baseline benefits went up. Moving smoothly into Section 4, paying for the changes, where we look at the proposed revenue mechanisms. Now, what's really interesting about this $184,500 figure is that currently this is the wage cap threshold, meaning no matter how many millions a person makes, they stop paying Social Security taxes once their income crosses this exact cap for the year. But this bill proposes completely eliminating that wage cap after 2026. So high earners would pay Social Security taxes on all of their income exactly the same way average wage earners do right now. And the revenue generation doesn't just stop at payroll. For folks earning over $400,000 a year, the bill proposes a brand new 12.4% tax on net investment income. This is specifically designed to capture wealth that currently escapes the Social Security tax system entirely, redirecting those funds straight into supporting the expanded benefits we just talked about. Another major structural shakeup is the creation of a unified trust fund. Right now, the system operates with entirely separate funds, one for retirement and survivors, and a totally different one for disability. The 2100 Act proposes merging them into one unified financial system. According to experts analyzing the text, this doesn't just simplify bureaucratic reporting, it actually solidifies long-term finances by making sure one fund can't run dry while the other is still solvent. And that brings us to our final agenda item, Section 5, fixing SSA operations and looking at bureaucratic guardrails. These operational protections are heavily detailed in the bill. To tackle customer service issues, it mandates that the SSA must maintain at least the number of full-time employees they had on January 19th. It also aims to keep the Social Security Commissioner focused and independent, strictly barring them from taking on other government distractions. Plus, it explicitly stops the agency from closing or consolidating field offices without going through strict protocols. We're talking a mandatory 120-day public notice and at least 2 public hearings before any closure can even happen. The bill also introduces a minimum damage threshold of $5,000. This is actually a newly established right to sue. If political employees improperly accessed or leak your personal Social Security data, or if you're put through the absolute bureaucratic nightmare of being wrongfully marked as deceased, which, believe it or not, has been a growing issue, this bill gives you the explicit right to sue for damages starting at a minimum of $5,000 per violation. It finally creates real, tangible financial consequences for data mismanagement. Look at this striking number right here, 10%. Overpayments have been a massive issue lately. Beneficiaries have been blindsided by demands to repay tens of thousands of dollars just because of an agency error. And historically, default clawback rates could hit 50% or even 100% of their monthly check. No way, right? Under this new proposal, if you're overpaid through absolutely no fault of your own and there's no fraud involved, the absolute maximum the SSA could reduce your monthly check to recoup that money drops to just 10%. Now, as we wrap up this detailed breakdown, we've got to ground ourselves in legislative reality. Everything we've explored in this explainer today, from the benefit boosts to the new taxes to the operational guardrails, currently exist as just a proposed piece of legislation. It's an unpassed bill in the House of Representatives. For literally any of this to take effect, it requires full action and passage from both the House and the Senate. Which leaves us with one final provocative question. Will Congress actually pass the 2100 Act? The mechanics and the math are laid out crystal clear in the text, but the outcome? Well, that is entirely up to the legislative process. If you want to turn the proposals we've looked at today into a legislative reality, or if you just want to voice your opinion on the matter, the absolute most direct step you can take is to visit congress.gov, house.gov, or senate.gov and contact your elected representatives. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.